see how all of these touch-sensitive controls work with your gloves on. There's one major frustration that I've had this week with this central infotainment system.
This is the Volvo XC40. It's built in Belgium. This color is called Cloud Blue, and my tester runs the B5 engine, a 2-liter turbocharged gasoline 4-cylinder with 48-volt mild hybrid system I'll be explaining later. You get 247 horsepower, all-wheel drive, and automatic 8-speed, and on a proper set of winter tires, Michelin X-Ice in the case of this machine. It's a very good time driving this in the snowy, icy sort of conditions I'm showing you here today, with 258 pounds of electrified torque at your disposal. The slow motion shots of these full throttle all-wheel drive launches demonstrate the traction. We're on some sandy hard-packed, and even with plenty of off-the-line torque being channeled to the road, you'll notice no wasteful wheel spin, no drama, and the XC40 just bites in and launches away. All 4 wheels engaged from the first inch of movement, no torque steer, no spinning, just grip. This system is on the ball. So when it's time to get moving in a hurry, just stand on that right pedal and let the electronics sort things out for you. There's minimal detectable intervention from the traction control during hard launches. The system actually favors a fair bit of wheel spin before trying to cut engine power or apply braking. And it's a setup I think you'll find to be a worthy driving partner that won't step on your toes, even on snow and ice. For the money, there are a few good reasons to consider one of these and a few good reasons not to, and for the rest of this video I'll be covering both of those to help you make a more informed purchase decision that ultimately gets you the most bang for your buck. If you crave more power, there's an even punchier all-electric version available, which I'll show you in a future video, so be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you're watching on YouTube, so you don't miss that upload. Pricing from $46,500 Canadian for starters, and about $10,000 more than that for the top trim, $56,000 B5 Ultimate, full pricing on your screen. Later, I'll be showing you what this machine is like to drive at night, but to start with, let's size things up, give you a look around, check out a few handy touches and complaints, and take a wintry road test, and all of that coming up after the glove test.
Alright, so a little glove test for you here. Let's see how all of these touch-sensitive controls work with your gloves on. And these are not touchscreen compatible gloves, so let's see if this is going to work. Now look at that, it is actually working, and working pretty well. Go back down into here, you can go on maps. I wonder if, look at that.
Look, pinchy.
Yeah, you can do the pinch, you can do the swipe. And that's with these pretty clunky non-touchscreen compatible gloves. So really happy to see that. Climate control down here. You've got to be a little careful sort of where your finger's going if you got the gloves on, but yeah, actually, no big deal to work that climate control system with these on. If we want additional functions, you just press in the middle there and you can control the fan speed, set it to auto and so on.
How about touching those small buttons?
Yeah, these ones here. So like yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
That is impressive, actually. So as well as that touchscreen works with your gloves on, important to note too, I'll draw your attention, can we see these buttons down here? We do have these hard buttons there for our front and rear defrosters. So no need to use the touchscreen for these if we don't want to. So to summarize the glove test in this thing, actually this is one of the best vehicles I've driven in recent memory in terms of having a touchscreen that actually works very, very well, even if you're wearing non-compatible gloves.
So how does the mild hybrid system work? Different hybrid engines work in different ways, and mainly you'll find full hybrid and mild hybrid options when you're considering hybrid engines that don't have a plug. In a mild hybrid like this XC40, there's a compact electric motor generator attached to the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder gasoline engine, and that compact motor generator has 2 jobs. The first is to generate electricity to store in the onboard battery pack, and the second is to use electricity from that battery pack to boost the output of the gas engine when required. In a full hybrid, and we'll use this Honda CR-V as an example, 1 or more larger electric motors are used, and they can actually do the entire job of driving the vehicle in certain situations, solely on electric power. We say this is a full hybrid because the electric part of the driveline is capable of driving the vehicle all by itself. In a mild hybrid, the smaller electric motor can't do the work of driving the car on its own. In the XC40, if your foot's on the throttle, that gas engine is running. Thing is, by using a small electric motor to boost the power of that gas engine, you get more torque using less fuel, so you can think of this mild hybrid setup as sort of an electric supercharger that makes its own electricity.
So in a full hybrid, the focus is more on saving fuel, and in a mild hybrid like this one, the focus is more on delivering more power using the same amount of fuel.
From the driver's seat, the electric punch makes the XC40's turbo engine pull with pleasing responsiveness, even from low revs where the turbocharger isn't quite up to speed. That electric motor gives us a nice shove ahead until the turbo gets breathing and takes things from there. There's no driver decision making required and nothing more than a little icon in the instrument cluster showing you that the system is generating electricity every time you brake to recharge its battery. This is all entirely self-managed and invisible. You just put gas in the tank and drive. Fuel economy lands at 9 liters per 100 kilometers. That's about the same as a Subaru Forester Wilderness, a Hyundai Kona all-wheel drive turbo, or just a little more than an all-wheel drive equipped Honda CR-V with the standard non-hybrid engine. But Volvo's B5 engine needs premium gas, and if you pay $1.65 a litre for that and drive 25,000 kilometers annually, then it's an annual fuel bill of about $3,700 and a monthly fuel bill of about $310. I've been testing Volvos in northern conditions for 2 decades, and I'd happily tell you, they make some of the best machinery I ever get to drive in the snow. That's thanks in no small part to the Swedish engineers who work in a country where they go downhill skiing on their lunch breaks. And you can see that in the drive when it comes time to hit the wintry back roads of northern Ontario where I do a lot of my testing. Despite the lack of sporty signals like shift paddles or metal pedals from the driver's seat, I found my tester very engaging by way of its feel. The eager response from the electrified torque of the engine means you've got a strong push from the vehicle in exchange for just a little push on the throttle pedal. I found the steering to be quick and light, that's to say playful. It's not big on feedback, but minimal inputs at the wheel cause big reactions from the car, meaning you can direct this from corner to corner with little more than a flick of your wrist on that steering wheel. So sensitive throttle and sensitive steering lay the foundation, and with those Michelin X-size tires, I'm able to precisely apply and then feel the inputs I'm providing the braking system, which itself gives you a strong initial bite and also expertly meters out stopping power between and across the axles, even on tricky split traction surfaces. So a quick, assertive, and straight stop is pretty much always just a flick of your brake pedal away, and the XC40 pulls down in a straight line with no drama just about every single time, regardless of the surface underneath. Now, if you're a winter driving enthusiast, I think this will be the most important part of the video for you. I can't stress enough how well this car picks up on extra traction from a set of tires like these, and uses it to extend the feel of capability and response to even challenging and slippery situations. Light-footed drivers will feel nicely backed up, and heavier-footed drivers will love the reflexes, especially when the all-wheel drive system detects you pushing the throttle harder out of corners, and gifts you with a good helping of rear wheel spin to help easily use that torque to steer the vehicle with the throttle. The ride was better than I was expecting here too. Despite the athletic feel dialed into much of this machine, the ride is not a spine basher, and even browsing the bumps at a good clip, my tester demonstrated generous suspension travel with strong control over unwanted body motions, or to put that simply, the suspension keeps the body active and helps soak up the bumps while keeping the ride refined, nicely avoids smashing into potholes, and ultimately keeps occupants more comfortable more of the time across a wider range of surfaces. Rattles and clicking from the interior are kept nicely in check even on rough roads and in extreme cold. The engine doesn't mind starting at 25 below without being plugged in, and drivers enjoy it from a cabin that, while looking dated in some regards, does have a certain minimal but premium-looking style with high-value accents engaging the eyes, including the crystal gear shifter, gloss trim, a vertical touchscreen, and some of the best seats you'll sit in all day. Look closely for the Swedish flag, it's a big plus. Complaints? Well, I could have done with some paddle shifters, maybe a drive mode selector. I wish this ran on regular grade gas, which is cheaper. The rear seating can be a bit claustrophobic because of that upward swooping rear belt line, and while I find the ride to be acceptably quiet overall, there is elevated road noise present when you're sitting in the rear seats. The backup camera needs a washer system, and finally, the driver assist systems did apply a few startling or abrupt inputs, even arguing with me once or twice about which lane we'd be using. Though drivers can easily overpower these steering inputs, I much prefer not having to, and was a little surprised by the occasional touch of clumsiness. Then there's the infotainment system. Put in the time and it's easy to work before long, though the small climate control buttons make that a little fussy to operate. And during my test week, I did really miss the ability to use my favorite app to listen to music, likely due to a software glitch.
There is one major frustration that I've had this week with this central infotainment system, and that is the ability to listen to music. Now, I'm using Spotify. In the case of this particular vehicle, this infotainment system lets us have Apple CarPlay directly plugged in. I don't have an Apple phone, I'm using Android. So I've got my Google Assistant, my Google Maps. In order to listen to music on my Spotify from my phone, I actually have to go into the Play Store, find Spotify here, and download it. Thing is, can we get up there and see how it says pending? Right? And in other Volvos and Polestar cars, I've done this before. If you want to listen to Spotify, you download it into the infotainment system, log in, and it works like a charm. But for whatever reason, in this particular vehicle, I have been waiting now for 5 days for that download to complete. I have rebooted it, I've rebooted my phone, nothing is working, so I'm stuck using sort of AM/FM radio. I cannot get my Spotify playing on this. Now, I've seen it work properly in other Volvo and Polestar cars before. Quite a powerful system once it's set up. I'm not sure what the problem is here, but I would tell you that if you're buying one of these, make sure that before you accept delivery from the dealership, you have all this stuff set up and working exactly the way you're expecting to avoid frustration down the line.
Are these fancy wiper jets?
We've been checking a lot of wiper jets out lately, haven't we?
Yes.
And I apologize if you get wet. So we're spraying right on the glass, pretty much. I'd say that Mazda system was a little more efficient. Like, we are maybe wasting a little bit of fluid here.
Yeah, a little bit more, but
definitely,
like, especially on a day like this, today is like a very ice cold day, so everything is freezing instantaneously, but your windshield is like super clean.
and the nice part too, as you've mentioned before, these are gonna sit up here so they're not buried down there under the snow and ice, which of course means less time standing out in the cold filling up your washer fluid on a day like this.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you wanna get back in the car?
Drink googly woogly, it's cold out there.
So how is it to drive in the dark? Watch when we first turn the headlights on. There's a little animation, a little drama, sort of a pre-drive stretch of those dynamic lights, whose beams lift and animate into position, both when you turn the car on and off. It's a little hint that this lighting system is designed to engage you, a subtle reminder to keep your eyes focused up the road where they belong. Do so and you'll note a very precise beam cutoff, impressive reach to faraway reflectors, which enhances nighttime visibility and helps keep you aware of things that might be moving up the road or highway. I didn't note any trouble with the auto high beam system, which never beamed oncoming traffic, and that means some set it and forget it nighttime driving. While the effect is fairly subtle on camera, the steerable projectors help keep more light where you need it more of the time, effectively bending light into corners, and that can be a bonus when you're spending hours driving on the dark and lonely highways of northern Ontario where I live, maybe encountering a new forest friend along the way. Elsewhere in the back roads, this lighting system ticks all the boxes I like, with clean white light that reduces strain and powerful illumination punching into the passenger roadside and culvert area for early warning of movement. Drivers take it all in from an environment that, while using all digital screens, does appreciably keep light pollution to a minimum at night, while simultaneously using minimal lighting cues to give driver and passengers a high-end looking, high-tech environment to take in a nighttime drive with confidence and comfort to spare.